And don't forget, Thursday is a very important day.
Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'll call the Crow Wing County Regular Board Meeting for June 22nd, 2021 to order. If you'll stand and join me in the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we have open forum. If there's anyone who would like to speak to any subject other than what's on our published agenda, this is your opportunity to speak. Hearing none, seeing none. We'll move on to item number 3, which is to review and approve the minutes. We'll take these one at a time. 3.1 is to the regular county board meeting minutes for June 8th, 2021.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine to approve, second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, motion passes. 3.2 is to approve the County Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting minutes for June 14th, 2021. Motion by Commissioner Franzine to approve,
Second.
second by Commissioner Coring. All those approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not approving? Same sign, that motion passes. Number 4 is to review and approve the published agenda. We do have one change on there. Item number 6 has been withdrawn, so we will not be hearing from the Minnesota DNR today, so I would look for a motion to, with that change, to approve the current agenda.
Motion to approve with that change.
Motion by Commissioner Coring,
Second.
second by Commissioner Franzine. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not in favor, same sign. The motion passes. Number 5 is our consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to approve the consent agenda,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Brecken. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not in favor, say nay. Motion passes. We're on to number 7, County Engineer, Mr. Brave. We're going to set a public hearing for County Road 115 on vegetation impacts.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I have one item for you today, and it is involving setting a public hearing related to our County Road 115 project. And if I may, could I start by giving you all an update on just the overall County Road 115 project?
Please do.
Fine, okay. It'll good segue into what this agenda item is. So County Road 115, we're very busy with that. We have been for 8 years or so. I think it started in 2013, and our last, the public open house was July 9th in 2018, and that was down in meeting room 1 and 2, and that's where we'd heard public comment, and then the board eventually heard consensus to move forward with the proposal that the county had been for a while. So we've been really busy designing it. We're currently at 90% plan, even a little bit more than that. Wow. So we're on track for on-time delivery on the south side for 2023, and then on the north side for Nashway at 2024. But there's still a lot of work to do, and we're right on track with that. We're currently out meeting with property owners. So along with that 95% plan, we've determined which property we might need and what impacts we may have on those properties there. Over the last month, we've been out putting wood stakes in the ground to kind of define some of those lines, where the existing right-of-way is, where the proposed right-of-way is, where some of the other construction disturbance will be. And this is really important because we've had a website up for about 2 or 3 years or more, and even though I've been working in this industry for about 20 years, it's really hard to look at that 2D drawing and see what's actually going on. The corridor is just packed with fences and trees and driveways and things like that. It's hard to kind of find those spatial relationships between what's there now and what we're proposing. So it's really important for us to be out there and physically show the property owners what we're doing. Along with that, we've been available. We've written a letter to everybody and reached out to them and encouraged them to set up meetings where we can literally go out there, the team, Rob Hall and Mark Melby are our primary contacts out there, literally stand in their front yard and be able to discuss what the stakes are saying and what those impacts are. And in some cases, really get some good ideas of how maybe we can minimize some of those impacts. And so although we're at a 95% plan, we're still taking that information that you just really can't see on the computer and standing in their front yard and bringing it back and evaluating it. So we, like I said, wrote a letter, and I'd say about 30% of the people have reached out and have taken that opportunity to meet with us. The others have not, and that could be a signal of they're okay with what we're proposing and what they see at the stakes, and others just may have forgotten. So I want to encourage those who may be listening or may read about it in the paper that we are standing by to hear from you, to have that on-site meeting so you can get your questions answered. To keep this project on track, we need to hear from you by the middle of next month, July. So we can kind of finalize the design, finalize the right-of-way plats that are required, so we can start right-of-way acquisition. So the right-of-way acquisition for the most part is not very invasive. We have impacts of 10 square feet, which is like this big, up to about an acre. But a lot of them are just little strip takings. But we need to be able to finish our work so we can make offers and start that negotiation process. So when it comes time to build the road and actually do some utility work, that we have it in our possession so we can legally go on it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Commissioner Corning.
Tim, when you say the stakes are there, so just visually, so what does that mean? Is that the outer parameters or the outer part of what the road is going to be, or the road, that's the end of the road? I mean, or the end of the right-of-way right there, and nothing else will happen beyond that stake? Is that what you're saying?
Right. I brought a graphic. I brought a lot of graphics, but just that first one right there. So this is the website, Paul, and people are encouraged to go there, and they're able to see what's happening in front of their property. So I could get very detailed here, but
The stakes would be on the green line
the
then?
green line signifies the existing right-of-way, and that's a very important point for this discussion and then the follow-on discussion that we're going to have about the public hearing. And so there'll be a stake out there signifying that. There'll be stakes out, this pond on the bottom side there, kind of laying out where that will be and the corners of that, so the property owners can recognize that that's going to be on their property and what those impacts might be, and then provide us feedback.
So green, if I can ask another
Yes.
question. So can you just tell what the lines are? Obviously, I can see purple is people's lot lines.
Yep.
And then the green is existing, and I'm seeing a red, and I'm guessing that the red is the proposed, correct? And then where the pond is, what is that squiggly kind of thing? And I see another one off to the right-hand side, and then there's another one.
Sure. I prepared some graphics to go through this if you'd like me to go through all of them.
Well, I guess I don't think we got a long meeting. I guess I'd like to know a little,
Sure.
educate myself a little bit if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to start at the very beginning. This is the existing conditions. And so there's two 11-foot driving lanes out there. That's the yellow. The gray is just the background. So the existing property lines are green, and anything to the outside of that is private property. We're proposing the introduction of a 4-foot shoulder to give some pedestrian refuge. We've talked about that for a number of years. and we're utilizing a curb and gutter section to help with water, with drainage and water quality that flows into these lakes. And we're using it alternately, so some areas will use a ditch where there's no curb and gutter or storm sewer, but other places will have long stretches of curb and gutter. And so because we're widening, there may be some impacts to private property. I'm happy to say that much of what we're doing fits within the existing right-of-way. And in many cases, it's because of curb and gutter. If we utilize the ditch section, we'd be much wider and be much more impactful. And that's one of the things that we've really worked hard to convey over the years.
And that means putting in retention ponds, though?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Okay, here's the next slide. So, first thing to recognize is the red dashed line. That's what we call construction limits. But really what it's the area that we need to disturb to build the road. And so we can't build this stuff straight up and down. There's topography on the road that goes up and down, and that causes us to impact farther out so we can actually build the roadway. We need room to build. And that can create impacts to private property if you go on the top there, where we might just need it for a small amount of time and then we'll disturb that and maybe remove some trees in there, and then it will go back to the property owner. So we're essentially renting it. So we're paying for it.
We're paying for it?
We're paying for it, but it will eventually go back to the property owner. On the south-
Restored, though. They don't have to restore it.
They don't have to restore it. They'll be compensated for that, and in the compensation, there could be restoration
Okay.
damages. On the bottom here, same thing, but now we're in a ditch section, so if the red line is curb and gutter, and on this side, curb and gutter stops, and we go to a ditch section, which is much more impactful, like I mentioned. So this would be the new property line. So we need to disturb that, but this area will now become a ditch. And so we need to make this a permanent part of the right-of-way.
So that, Tim, that green line then would move down
Correct.
to incorporate the kind of gold line, correct?
Correct. And I'll get to that. I have a couple more slides. I'll show what is private property acquisition and what we would pay for. I have that highlighted. So we're also introducing ponds. So when you have curb and gutter, it collects and concentrates the water. You have to have a place to treat it before it flows into a lake or river or we want it to go into the ground and seep in if possible. That's the best way to treat it. And so we have, I think it's 19 ponds around this whole 5 miles. We're using a lot of curb and gutter to minimize impacts, to fix drainage problems that exist there, and consequently, you have to have ponds. And ponds are invasive to some of the property owners where they will be located, but overall, it can minimize the impacts because we're using curb and gutter, if that makes sense. So it is a trade-off. So to get that pond in there, we would propose that portion be acquired. So this is, if we were negotiating with a particular landowner, that would be compensable damages. So we're purchasing private property, we're renting it on the top side. This will become a permanent part of the road right-of-way. And they'll be compensated for that, and the trees within their private property are compensable too.
What are the graphics,
Oh, I'm sorry. Those are trees. I'm sorry.
Those are trees?
Those are trees. Actually, the star-looking one is a symbol for pine tree, and the other one is deciduous tree.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
It's just a symbol that we use, and is actually the exact same symbol that's used on the website. Now I want to get into the,
So we're planting trees then? We're going to
No.
plant trees? Or
Well,
those are existing trees?
those are existing trees. Now, in some of the areas, like the pond area, we are planning to do a landscaping project.
Okay.
And so we recognize that a number of trees may have to be removed in those areas, but we want to make sure that we get them back in the appropriate areas. So, which remains public right-of-way, like this pond, we may plant trees and shrubs about
Okay.
that. So we've programmed 2 standalone landscaping projects that they'll happen the year after the construction, because we want to see what's happening out there. So we're planning to plant, right now it's limited to what will be the public right-of-way, because we're going to compensate landowners for the trees that we take out, and part of that compensation would be to plant their own trees and however they would like.
Can I say something else?
Sure.
Mr. Chair? So I will say that I've drove it twice now. It's County Road 13, isn't it, by Lake Edward?
No, this is 115.
No, County Road 13 that was redone.
Oh, yeah.
You know where the road went close to that wetland there? If somebody said that the road used to go there, you'd never know it. You guys, the restoration that was done there was just immense, so I'm guessing this is gonna probably be just as good, if not better.
We're hoping to get some of those trees back up, because there will be unavoidable tree impacts, and that's why
Right.
I'm here today for this, this public hearing. And so I could go farther if you'd like,
Yes.
but, keep going? Okay.
Well, let me ask you a quick question though,
Sure.
Tim. On those ponds, is there ongoing maintenance with those to keep them dug out?
Yes,
Because
and
they
that's
will-
why it will be what we call a drainage easement or a permanent easement. We'll have a permanent right to go in there and clean those out. It'll be our responsibility and our right to go in there and clean them out over time as they, sediment fills them up, or garbage might get in there, who knows? So we maintain that as our public, in a public easement.
Okay.
Okay, so now I want to introduce the trees on the corridor and why we're kind of here. So you can see that there are a number of trees in this is really exaggerated. I don't think there's a place that's quite this dense with trees where we're looking to impact. There are some areas that have a bunch of trees, but not to this degree. I'm just showing it for effect. And so this is the disturbance line. Everything from this red line in has to be removed. It just can't be, because we can't build the road unless we remove the trees. But there is an area between the right-of-way and that disturbance line that we may be able to save them, and we want to. The residents along there expect us to save them. I want to save them, and we're going to do everything we can to save them. That's not how we really do other road construction. We clear right-of-way to right-of-way. If you go to County Road 13, a lot, in some of these other ones, we cleared right-of-way to right-of-way because we have to maintain it. We're treating this a lot differently. It's expected, it meets the context of the roadway, and the action that I'm asking you to do right now will help preserve these trees in this area. Let me see my next graphic. So this is what I just told you, is that under normal circumstances, we would clear from existing right-of-way to existing right-of-way. That's not what we want to do. That's not what's expected. We're talking,
Tim, isn't that what you'd refer to as like the clear zone? So that if somebody was going and they went in the ditch, you're hoping that they are stopped before they do get to the trees and get killed with running into a tree, right?
well, this is not quite the clear zone, so there's still some requirements, and it's based on which section you use. So if you think about curb and gutter, the ones the straight up and down, they consider that a barrier that will help keep cars on the road.
Sure.
So the trees can actually be a lot closer in that scenario. So this one could remain there sometimes it's only this far behind the curb and gutter. Now, whether it's actually a barrier, it depends on how fast you're going and the circumstances, but our design standards allowed immovable objects to be a little bit closer if we use that barrier curb and gutter. But down here, where it's a ditch, they can get off the road and go for quite a ways. So our clear zone would be much farther out. And that's why using the ditch section is much more invasive, because we would have to, by standard, in case somebody left the road, even at 35 miles an hour, that they would not hit a tree and be hurt, right? To protect against that. So the clear zone's a little different. Clear zone is not right-of-way to right-of-way. It's based on speed. It's based on the roadway section, which is curb and gutter, or ditch section, and their ability to get off the road and hurt themselves running into a tree. So these are the trees I'm talking about in terms of what we could be saving, and this will become relevant a little bit later in the discussion. And I think here they're all back again. Here's some real-life examples. And we are in discussions with many of these people. And so here is an area where there is the right-of-way line, incidentally. Let me orientate you first. This, you can hardly see it, I'm sorry. This tree right here, which is outside of the green line, this tree right here is this one. And it's actually on private property. So the right-of-way line runs somewhere like along here. So this landscape, these beautiful trees and this landscaping is on private property. We're not proposing to disturb that. And this fence is right on the line. So we're going to fit this brand new road in this little tiny sliver. We're doing this with a scalpel. And this is one of the tight areas. This is different. This is a very mature white pine, probably 100 years old. That is unavoidable. That is right there. It's right on the proposed shoulder of the roadway. So the blue line is the shoulder. And we've heard from this property owner and understand and empathize. I think he mentioned that he lost another one just as big during the windstorm, so he really is attached to this one, and rightfully so. He talked about the potential of moving the road away from it. And what's important to note is it just can't do a quick, loop out. It starts way back. It might start hundreds of feet back to make sure that it transitioned properly. And as soon as you start moving it at 100 feet back to get it away, you put 5 trees in jeopardy. Or, that's these guys. And then even some of these. So it's a trade-off. Yes, it could probably go around it, but it would just impact other properties. And those are some of the decisions and discussions that we're having with property owners. So this one is an unavoidable impact, and it's a sensitive tree.
What about, Tim, I'm sorry if I'm asking too many questions, just kind of interested to know how this is going to work. Okay, so now if you look at the power pole, I mean, that's literally it. That's in a clear zone as far as I'm concerned. What's the power company going to do?
Excellent. Thank you for asking. We've heard from the residents, for sure, from day one, and hear from them every time it's windy and windstorm. And they've been asking from early on about asking to get the power company to bury their lines. And for a while, they were not able to commit. But over the course of the last 6 months, they have committed. Minnesota Power has committed to go underground with the ones that would replace this one. Now, the ones going to home it's a little bit different. There's a property owner choice associated with that. But for the main line that goes around that is typically overhead, they're planning to go underground. And another good thing is that they are working, they're still working through this, and it's trying to figure it out with all the other utilities. If you think about the phone companies and the cables and maybe if there's fiber out there and those things, they're trying to work together to occupy a common trench. So one trench where everything is in there, gas too. I found out today that gas can occupy the same trench, it's just they have some vertical clearance. You don't want too much electricity near a high-pressure gas line. But they're trying to minimize the impact of utilities in this corridor too. If, without that, there might be a cable might be over here, gas would be over here, electricity might be over here, all trying to occupy such a limited space. So it is a good development that are going underground, and they're all trying to work together to figure out how to get it in one trench. Right now, they're focusing on the inside, which I would call the round lake side, all the way around. So I think the gas is the lead. It's probably the hardest one to move. And I think the gas is primarily on the inside, and so everything that would be buried is, will be on the round lake side, even all the way around. It's still preliminary, but that's where we're at right now, our latest information.
Are you getting good vibes from the other utilities, though, the
They're all
cable
working
companies
together.
and it?
They're all
Okay.
working. We started 3 years ago, and, they have a lot of planning and a lot of things to do, and so we're very happy that we're meeting on a regular basis. Everybody's at the table, and we're trying to figure out how to do that, which will create a better environment for those out there who lose power when it's windy. It helps minimize impacts by sharing a common trench, and so we could potentially have less tree and other impacts out there. But there'll still be impacts associated with utilities, but I think under this scenario, it would be much less than it would be otherwise. Okay. Here's the next scenario where the right-of-way is pretty far up into the yard, and an improvement has been, a nice concrete horseshoe driveway has been built to access this home, but a lot of it remains on the right-of-way. And we're currently working with this property owner too to see if there's something we can do to minimize that. And that came from that letter and a couple on-site meetings. As a matter of fact, we looked at it 2 years ago and said there's nothing we can do. But since then, the design has come further along, and we're going to reevaluate it again after telling them, no, there's nothing we can do 2 years ago. This letter and a meeting out there prompted us to take a look again, which could minimize impacts to their investment here and here. So here's, as it relates to the trees, if we cleared right away to right away, these two nice trees would be gone. But if you look at this disturbance line, we don't need to. The likelihood of we can avoid these is pretty good. And so that's why it's important not to clear right away to right away. Here's the garage everybody asked about, everybody. Our intent is not to touch this. It's right on the property, or it's right on the right-of-way line right now. I don't know why or how it got there. It could have been the original foundation 100 years ago. I don't know. I just know how we're going to treat it right now, and we're not going to touch it. Everybody wants to know if we're going to make them tear it down, and our intent is not to at all. We haven't had a discussion at all about that. Okay, I wasn't sure if you were going to go to that. That was kind of a backup. But I'm glad we had the discussion. Any questions about that?
Thanks. That was good.
Very good.
Okay.
Actually, I like the utility thing. That's going to make it much more attractive drive through there without power poles and lines hanging down. I think it's just going to be, when this thing is done, it still reminds me of when going through Cross Lake, when the residents didn't want this and didn't want that, and were upset. And then when the construction was over with, never heard from anybody anymore, because they liked it. They liked the trail. And so I think when this is done, people are gonna go, gosh, wish I could have had that 8 years ago.
I think there was people last year that went without power for 3 or 4 days. It was just a windstorm, and in some areas, it's really bad. In some areas, they're already underground, I want to say on the north side. We're talking about that, I just want to mention that some of these homes, it goes overhead all the way right up to the house. And so the utility company is not going to run it right up to the houses. If it's overhead, they're not going to go underground to their home, to the individual homes. They will run it to a pole, the nearest pole that will go in, and it will be the property owner's choice whether to keep it overhead or pay the fee to have it go underground. And so we're still working through what that looks like exactly and how prolific that is. So just know that it's not, just because it's going overhead, not at each individual home, will be the responsibility of the utility
I
company.
understand.
Quick question on this picture here, Tim. You said that it abuts the right-of-way. Is that the foundation, and does the roof line move into our right-of-way?
I'm not positive. I'm not positive if it's this corner or which sticks out here. I think it's 0. We just know that the setback is 0. And how it got that way, I don't know, and I don't know that that's super important for our work. We just know that we're not going to disturb it. What we're going to do is just leave it where it is, and maybe even try to avoid it even more if we can. Let me get back to this real quick. So after, just want to get back to the letter, and that we really need to hear from property owners in the next couple weeks before the 15th of July, so we can prepare our final offer, or not the final offer, our initial offer, because there's going to be negotiation with these property owners. But it's really important to get that offer out so we can start negotiating, so we can keep it on track. There'll be no compensation for encroachments on the right-of-way. So there's a lot of landscaping and things that are out there right now that are private investments that have slipped over the line, and we're not planning to pay for those. Now, if there's a disturbance of the landscaping on private property, so for example, we're not going to get into this, but if we got into these boulders and things like that on private property, that would be something that's compensable to the property owner. But if it's over the line, say this fence was 10 feet inside the right-of-way, it's not, it's right on the line, we would not pay for that because it is an encroachment. Okay?
Yep.
Let's see, just more about just general, is we have the environmental permits have been received, so we're going to do some culvert work at the creek there, Sugar Bush Creek, I think, that goes under and flows between North Long and Round Lake. The utilities, if we can continue to make progress, we want to get them started next year. And so that's another important reason why we want to start and get further along on our property acquisition process so we can get them out there. And the value with that is they can get in and get out of the way, so when the contractor comes in to actually do the road, it'll go faster. So a lot of projects can be delayed when as a utility companies try to coordinate with the prime contractor that moves dirt and paves and does curb and gutter. And so if we can get their work done, the utility companies, and get that in this common trench on this side, the road construction and the impact of that to property owners who will want to use their property in the summer of 2023 should be diminished or minimized. So it's all this it all is very methodical, and we need to hear from the property owners if they have concerns about the stakes that are out there or need help interpreting them.
Commissioner Coring.
So Tim, a lot of times utilities have easements with private property owners, so they're gonna go in our right-of-way, so they don't have to go around the lake and try to get easements from anybody. They're gonna be right in our right-of-way, is that
The
correct?
intent is for them to be within our right-of-way, the 50-foot corridor that we have there. There may be some instances, they're busy designing it too and trying to react to the situations that are out there and react to our design. The intent is that it's in our right-of-way and they don't have to negotiate private easements, but I don't know if they're having any areas where they're having difficulty with that yet.
Follow-up question, you're negotiating this year, hopefully so utilities can start work next year. When you get to the northern one, when will you start to negotiate with those landowners so utilities can be approximately a year out prior to that one? Will that be 22 and 23 then?
We're engaging all of the property owners now. Want to concentrate on the south half, but we're talking to everyone, and we will likely make offers to everyone. We've not excluded anybody on the north yet.
Okay.
So we're planning to do it all at once, but when it comes down to it, we really got to concentrate on the south so we can keep on time with that.
Right. So they'll have about a 4-year program with their road tore up and some inconveniences.
Well, the utilities should be able to not be as invasive, so that, you know, you'll see some work possibly being done out here, but it shouldn't impede traffic like a major construction project will be. I mean, they'll have to be driving on gravel for a while and driving without pavement come 23 and 24 in these areas. But with the utility work, it shouldn't be as invasive.
Okay.
That's incidentally, before they do their work, we'll have to do some tree clearing and the things that need to be done, because there'll be trees in the way of utilities also.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. So just kind of segueing then into the requested board action today is there's some unavoidable tree impacts. There are some that are located within the right-of-way, like that one that I showed before, this one. What we've discovered through this process and with the help of some attorneys is that there's a statute out there, it's statute 160.22. And it's a little used, actually, as I found out, not often used by MnDOT or counties, that has to deal with trees that are located within the existing right-of-way, so within the public corridor. And this 115 corridor is quite unique because we've allowed this tree to be there. But it's still on public property. And so what the statute requires or recognizes that is an amenity for the adjacent property owner and adjacent property owners, and that either we have to pay them for it, or and pay for all of them within the right-of-way, which could be tens of thousands of dollars plus. We're going to try to save them, so we would have to pay them and then maybe not even cut them down. And so that creates a difficult situation. The other thing is to have a public hearing and talk about give the opportunity for the adjacent property owners to voice their opinion about that. We're already doing it with our visits out there on the corridor, but the statute requires that we have a public hearing for those people who have the potential, the adjacent property owners, who have potential of losing trees like this and others that are located in the public right-of-way, to voice their opinion about that. And so that's the public hearing I'm asking you to set today. And it's a little tricky because the public hearing, we're planning to set it telling the public the intent there's the potential to clear every tree within the right-of-way. That's the basis of the public hearing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're going to try to save them all. It's going to give us the flexibility to make those decisions maybe during construction, because we have to give notice, we have to tell them. So think about this public hearing that we're going to set in August. We're going to receive public input for it and follow the statute. So, but a year later, it might be the determination of, yes, it has to go, or yes, it might stay.
Right.
If we had to make the decision now, not knowing where the utility is necessarily going to go, how the final design might shake out, we have to clear everything. We'd have to say we have to go with everything. And by stating that there's that potential and meeting the letter of the law, it's actually giving us more flexibility. I'm struggling a little bit because it's really difficult to explain. We were going to provide an opportunity for the public to come in, comment on the trees that are in the right-of-way and why they're important to them, and then use that flexibility that gives us to make the call much closer to the construction timeline.
Do you have an opinion, Tim? Say you don't remove that tree, but you disturb it, the ground right up next to it, so you damage the root system of that tree, and a year later you realize that that tree is dying and it's not going to survive.
Yep.
What is our responsibility there?
That's another thing that would be covered on that, under this, is we publish the intent to take it down, or the potential of taking it down. And if it dies, then we're going to do everything we can. I guess I want people to trust that we're trying to do that. I wish people could be around the office and know I'm talking about how it's super important that we try not to disturb the roots, but we don't know where the roots are on that or in other trees, so we don't know what will happen. And if it does die, we followed the rules and are covered under this statute.
Okay, and so today we're asking for
Yep.
the approval of the public hearing.
Yes. So I've reached out to Nisswa, and I failed to confirm, but I did have tentative plans for August 19th at 7 p.m. at the Nisswa City Hall. I called up there and tried to confirm. I don't think it'll be a problem. So I'm
They don't have a
requesting.
council meeting that night?
They do not have a council meeting that night.
Okay.
And the reason why we chose that is close to the corridor. We want to make it convenient. We want to see the public come out and tell us why those trees are important. It's the right thing to do. And at that meeting, you can choose to, if it's published correctly, I'm sure it will be, you could choose to make a decision that night, or you could wait till the next regular board meeting, continue to take public comment or emails about that, and then make a decision. And then the statute requires that a decision be made and published, and then the property owner is notified. And there's an appeal process.
A what?
An
Appeal.
appeal process. They can appeal to district court the board's decision to take down trees within the existing right-of-way. So it is a process. It isn't one that's normally used. This is a unique situation. It's hard to find a corridor with 100-year-old trees right up against that are so sensitive that we need to really follow this statute, but we're committed at the Highway Department to doing it.
Okay, so at this time, I would look for a motion to set the public hearing for 7 p.m., August 19th, 2021, at the Nisswa City Hall to hear property owners' concerns regarding the potential for vegetation loss within the existing County Road 115 right-of-way.
I'll make
Yes.
that motion.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion.
I'll second.
Commissioner Brecken seconds the motion. All those in favor? 1 second. Did you have something, Commissioner Coring?
I was just going to say that I would be in favor of, I don't know when we're going to make this decision. I know we're just setting the public hearing now, but I want to make my thoughts known that I think we need to make that decision that night when the public is there, rather than leaving there and coming back here and then the public they're not here. I think we should make the decision that night. So I'm just making my thoughts known on that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Okay.
Not in favor, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
You'll confirm that date, though, with
Yes, I will.
Nisswa. Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much for the presentation. Very informative. I've been out there and driven that several times myself, and to Commissioner Coring's point, I see stakes all over the place, but then you have those pinch points that really, I didn't know how you were gonna handle it, but I have a lot of faith in you, in your crew.
We're working really hard, and we've talked to many property owners already and are considering some of their things. There's some things we can do and some things we can't. If you, just last thing, if you hear from one of your constituents or another resident, feel free to pass them on to our department. We'd be happy to help them through looking at the website or any other questions they may have.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Move on to number 8, Veteran Service Officer Report. Mr. Flowers, thank you for coming today.
Commissioners, thank you for having me here. Can't believe it's already the second quarter of the year that I'm giving this report for. So COVID hit and time all of a sudden it was slowed down, but then sped up at the same time. It's mind-boggling to know that it's almost July. So coming to this meeting, I was hoping that I was going to be able to give you a little bit more like numbers from the VA, the federal numbers that they send out every year on how well our counties are doing with veterans benefits going out to veterans. That hasn't come out yet this year, and so that'll have to be postponed. Also I'm anxiously waiting for the census data to come out as well too, because I feel that there's going to be some interesting data that comes out with our veterans compared to the rest of the state. So it's just a theory, but I think I might be correct on that. I was given some opportunities and coming into this position 2 years ago now, really kind of connecting with the other departments in the county and just working with them, with our veterans. And I just put together kind of some examples of how we work together. I work very closely with the jail and our veterans who end up incarcerated there. There's not a lot that we can do while they're inside, but we can give them advice and get their information. And there's usually a reason why they're there, and we can help get them resources when they get out to get them turned back around and get on the right path. So we work very closely with the social workers in the jail and our jail staff. They do a great job of asking the questions if they're a veteran when they're intake, and those who self-identify as veterans. They let us know. They send us emails, and we do have a kiosk that I have access to for messaging, so they can directly message our office, and we can reply to them and talk with them that way as well. We worked with the Sheriff's Department just recently here with some fraud and scams. We've been noticing a lot of our veterans, not a lot, but a handful of veterans getting scammed. And some of that is very large sums of money, down to very small amount. But they have, we kind of are in the process. We did one meeting with the VFW already, just kind of giving out some information, what to look out for, how to protect yourself. And I think that's going to develop into a lot more. I'm going to reach out to community services and see if they want to get on board as well with the adult protection group or department as well. Probation, we're very in touch with probation, obviously, when they get released from the jail and they get probation. We work with their probation officers. Once caseworker is assigned, we collaborate very well in coming up with a good plan to get them into treatment. Whatever they need are able to get through our services, but also just our support as well to help them keep on track. County's Attorney's Office, I've been very thankful to be able to work with them, talking with some different veterans who with like discharge planning and conditions of release. We appreciate them reaching out to us and some of their decision making on how they process and adjudicate their court decisions, and keeping us in the loop and just really giving the full benefit of trying to help them succeed and not come back. to jail. Community services, you know, I can only say really, I can't say anything bad about community services. They are very helpful. Not every single veteran that comes to our office has veterans benefits, and a lot of veterans don't understand that. They're not eligible. There's so many different things that come into play to determine eligibility for the benefits for veterans, and a lot of times it can be they don't have enough time in service to be considered a veteran if they're National Guard only. Different things like that. So with that being said, they're still needing help, and they're still served our country. And so we're able to help put them in adult protection cases, child support, you know, WIC, and the food program there. And they're very helpful with working with us and helping our veterans out, at least until those VA benefits can be established and we can get them back on their feet. So very appreciative for all of the departments in the county that we work with, and just really good relationships, and we keep on building more and more positive relationships with them. You know, there's other veterans organizations that we work with, you know, financial assistance for veterans who don't qualify for VA or state benefits. Usually it's special needs occasions. You know, we can reach out to the VFWs or the American Legions, you know, and get some assistance there a little bit quicker. So, any questions at all on that first part? I'm talking a little fast, but okay.
It's all right.
With our SSAP, the Minnesota Department of Veteran Affairs, you know, just a little statistics. I know last year we blew the record number out of the water with the COVID disaster relief grant that came out. Very surprised this year we are above what I was expecting. We're at about $80,000 of assistance to our veterans through that program. Typically we're running right around that 40 or 50 this time of year. So, and COVID grants ended really early this year. They ran out of the funds February or March or so, but a lot of those requests most of them were last year. So we continue to keep on pushing those grants because they're very needed for a lot of veterans right now. So some good things that have come through the National Defense Authorization Act of 2021 is with Blue Water, or not just Blue Water, but Agent Orange presumptives. There's 3 more presumptives added to the Agent Orange list. Those ones are bladder cancer, hypothyroidism, and Parkinson's-like diseases. So like tremors and different things. I'm not sure how the VA is going to be processing them quite yet. We have seen them start identifying those claims as some of them that have been denied in the past. They're starting to get those organized now, even before they're ready to, don't have all the instructions on how they're going to proceed with those claims quite yet, but they're already preparing for it. So that's good to see through the VA. We have a handful, probably a little bit more than a dozen, between 12 and 15 claims right now for those added presumptives sent in already with the process through our office and sent in to the VA. You know, just asking those who have those claims, it's going to take a little bit longer than most claims right now. They're still having to adjudicate or do all the research and make sure that those presumptives are met, that conceded that you're exposed to Agent Orange. I do ask if anybody's listening to this on the YouTube or where this is being broadcast, that we're searching out surviving spouses and previous veterans who have been diagnosed with these bladder cancer, hypothyroidism, or Parkinson's-like, or the other presumptives of Agent Orange, to reach out to our office if they're not receiving benefits, especially our surviving spouses. You know, some of these veterans have passed away long ago without this getting passed. You can be entitled to compensation and a lot of monetary help through the VA with this new change in law, and with the VA. So I've been looking for ways to track in our office. We don't have the database that's able to track and just easily identify those. We'd have to go through each case. And we're gonna do that as we come through. But if you're listening to this and you know somebody who was in the Navy, was in Vietnam, not sure if they were within 12 nautical miles with the Blue Water Navy, just reach out to our office and ask those questions, and we can definitely identify that and give you an answer or help you with that claim. So,
I appreciate that, Eric, because I do have one person in mind. It was a former realtor in town who passed away from Agent Orange, and
yes.
was very concerned about his wife after he passed. And so I don't know that it ever got resolved, but I'll find that name and I'll bring it to you, and
Thank you.
if you'll follow up with it, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, we did identify one surviving spouse who reached out to us, and you know, it's going to be very. Despite the loss of her husband several years ago, she's going to be compensated well from the VA, and the VA is going to finally be able to at least help the spouse out, which I know the veteran would be deeply appreciative and happy for that. So it's going to be very good for her. So outreaches, you know, with COVID, kind of. I don't know, sometimes we think it's gone, but is it? We're not sure. We've definitely been doing a lot more outreaching now lately. Memorial Day was around. May was Military Appreciation Month. So like military spouses were honored, and during that time, I think it was the 14th of May, you know, obviously Memorial Day is in there. We had events that were every year. Other than last year, we would go to the bridge, drop a wreath in honor for those lost in the Navy, and then we did a ceremony at the All Veterans Memorial here, right next to the court or office, and that was a great ceremony. It was nice to be out and see everybody again that were there before. Great speakers. Flag Day was just a couple days ago, and we had a ceremony out here as well. I spoke out at Cragun's Resort. They asked me to do a speech out there, and you guys can tell how well I am at speeches. I'm getting a little bit better, but I still get nervous. But it was great. It was an honor to be out there to talk with those who are spending their Memorial Day, just to get them to pause and think about what the holiday was for. And the other day my wife and I went to a veterans group dinner, so that was fun. We were invited. It's for those who 20 years in service, but they've relaxed a little bit, and they're bringing in other veterans. So I think we met at the Green Lantern, and there was a couple tables full, and that was just wonderful to be able to talk with them and get that outreach and just see everybody, and my wife really enjoyed herself too, talking with the spouses there, and it was just a lot of fun. So we've done about 5 home visits over the last 3 months, helping file and get signatures for claims. You know, and just kind of assessing how they're doing and getting some VA healthcare help for them as well. Our radio, I'm on the radio it used to be the last Friday of every month, and now it's the last Thursday of every month for the R&J broadcasts at 8:30 to 9. We teamed up with Crowing Energize and the VA with a veterans suicide prevention subcommittee that they're putting together. So I'm heavily involved with helping plan that and just bringing awareness out there for the general public, and also for our veterans as well, and different ways to be able to reach out and look for assistance. So. MDVA grant, so every year we receive a grant. This year was $15,000 that we received to be able to help maximize our office and for different things. It's been a little tough with the budget. You know, I planned with the budget where the money was going, but and a lot of it goes towards transportation and helping our veterans get down to the VA for their healthcare needs. With COVID, we haven't had a lot of those expenses because our vans have not been on the road as much, and our volunteers haven't been volunteering as much either with the restrictions that have been going on. So that's a big area that I want to focus on, is recruiting volunteers for our veterans drivers. We have, we're still working with the DAV, and those volunteers are volunteers strictly only, but we also have our county van program with that. We do compensate, there is compensation for our van drivers per day for that. And so we're just reaching out and trying to figure out different ways to be able to get some more volunteers in to be able to assist our veterans get to their VA appointments. So with that being said, I've utilized this year, it's the closes at the 30th of this month, and I'm utilizing as much as I can out of our operating costs, office supplies, and just maximizing the county in our budget for that. And there are areas that we are planning on with outreaches opening up. Challenge coins. We have challenge coins in our office that I'm ordering more of because those are very popular, and a good message behind it to get more people into our office to see what their benefits are, and other promotional materials because the fair is going to be coming up, and we're going to be getting out there, so we want to get everyone likes the trinkets and the pens and things, so we're looking into that. And we're also getting like uniforms in our office, some nice shirts, polo shirts, and good jackets with our logo on it. That's getting paid for by the grant as well. So we can look more professional and provide the services and be what people our veterans are expecting us as we keep working on this culture in our office and how I'm changing it. So not saying that it's changing a whole lot, but I got a vision that I'm working towards, and it's coming together very, very well. So yeah, just the grant right now is just kind of filling in those areas, alleviating the operating costs of the budget, and just adding funds to enhance our department and how we operate.
Any questions?
Good job.
Very good job.
Thank you.
You were the right guy for the job, there's no doubt about it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's wonderful feedback. So,
All right, well, thank you very much.
thank you.
Move on to number 9, Sheriff Goddard.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good morning. One just real quick update. John Bowen was here a few weeks back and was looking for your support for a grant that we were looking for our additions to the UAV program. I don't have all the particulars. John's on vacation, a well-deserved vacation that we've been trying to get him to take for a while. But he did text me that he heard back at the meeting that they did have at Sourcewell, and we were awarded that grant. So we will see the addition of monies that we're going to dedicate to hopefully building that team and upgrading on our systems and additions to our systems, and hopefully we can push along our idea of having that team kind of in that Crosby Ironton area and try to make that a reality within the next year here. So with that, I would certainly take any questions on any topics.
Questions?
All
Short
right,
report.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
County Attorney Ryan.
Good morning, everybody. How is everybody?
Good. Good.
Wonderful.
So I lost you. I can only see myself. That's kind of weird. Oh, well. In any event, I just have the one thing for you today. I have a letter of intent that with Essentia Health associated with the cost sexual assault examinations. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Yep.
Okay. I And what this is, better than 2 decades ago, with the people that were in the different positions at the time, we decided that we would pay for these expenses out of our budget, as the county's required to pay for it by state law. We decided that we would pay for it out of our budget, because not all of these cases are investigated by the sheriff's department, but they do all come to our office. We've been on a handshake agreement this whole time, and Essentia has wanted to now enter into this letter of intent to outline what that agreement has been. It doesn't change anything, other than instead of me calling them up every budgetary cycle to see that they will agree to the same amount or what the percentage change would be, we built that into this letter of intent. So with that, I can certainly field any questions. Otherwise, I would be asking that you authorize me to enter into this letter of intent.
Any questions for the attorney? Seeing none, I would look for a motion to approve the letter of intent between Crow Wing County and Essentia Health for Crow Wing County to pay the costs related to examinations of victims of criminal sexual conduct.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Coring makes the motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Franzine seconds that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not in favor, say nay. That motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have, but I could certainly answer any questions anybody might have.
Don, Paul Coring here. I will say you sure got a lot of paper piled up behind you there. It looks like you're awful busy. I don't know. Are you busy or?
Never slows down, Commissioner Corn. I could go through each pile and tell you what it is if you'd like.
I just see stacks and stacks of papers behind you.
All
Anyway,
right.
thank you, Don.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. On to number 11, County Administrator Hool.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we did not hold a senior management team meeting on Monday for lack of agenda items. That's probably the first time in about a year and a half. It felt so strange, but we don't meet just for the sake of meeting. If we don't have enough items to discuss, we don't meet. We did not. I'm happy to answer any questions about anything related to county government.
Questions for Administrator Hool? You're off the hook.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Commissioner Coring has one additional piece of business.
Well, Mr. Chair, I know the month is kind of 3/4 over, but, and this probably wasn't an oversight on your part. It probably was an oversight on my part, being that I'm a former dairy farmer, but June is Dairy Month. And we certainly need to recognize that, even though it's kind of sad in a way. I think there's only officially either 2 or 3 dairy farms left in Crow Wing County. That is crazy. I mean, there used to be, a lot, and they're it's just dying away. So anyway, June is Dairy Month, and then I looked, Mr. Chairman, because I know that you always want me to keep you up to date on this, and it's also National Onion Ring Day today. So just want to let you know that.
Thank you, Commissioner Coring.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate the update. But I would also thank all the egg farmers in the Crow Wing
Yes,
County for their
absolutely.
efforts. We appreciate it. With that, if there's nothing else, I would look for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Franzine,
Second.
second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not in favor, say nay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Good meeting.
Yes, it was good.
Good job, Tim Bray. You are a thorough guy, I tell you what.